General Skilled Migration Visas, or GSM visas. It's a nice concept. I just wish it had been implemented in a better manner. Essentially, General Skilled Migration Visas are a type of skilled visa in Australia that does not require you to obtain an offer of employment from an Australian employer. Most Australian employers don't like to sponsor foreign workers because it's expensive and onerous, and that's why the GSM visa is such an attractive type of visa. Essentially, the process works as follows. There's a long list of occupations that are suitable for GSM visas, and you have to identify or nominate an occupation for yourself and your spouse or partner, if possible, and obtain a positive skills assessment. For practical purposes, most of you have to do English language tests as well, because English language results count for points, and these are points tested visas. Once you've got the results of positive skills assessment and English language test results, you can submit an expression of interest, or an EOI, that sits on the government website. The expression of interest is submitted electronically. You don't have to pay anything to submit an expression of interest, and it's placed in a pool together with everybody else who's submitting these expressions of interest. Then what happens is that the Department of Home Affairs selects certain occupations at certain point scores if you're on a list of occupations suitable for the independent visa or 189 visa. And they tend to do this every 3 or 4 months throughout the immigration year. The 8 states and territories in Australia can also dip into the pool and invite certain occupations at certain point scores for state nominated visas. And there's 2 different types of state nominated visa. Once you receive the invitation, you can then apply for the particular type of visa. So they are invited visas. Nice concept, but poorly executed. And there are some problems associated with the execution. For example, the information contained on an expression of interest is fairly generic. It contains information such as the name of the occupation, the point score, where you'd like to live in Australia, who's included in the application, etc. But does not contain the kind of detail that you would really need or expect to find in a CV, for example. The pool of people submitting these expressions of interest has been flooded. There are far too many expressions of interest in the pool because people tend to submit multiple expressions of interest in the belief that the more expressions of interest they submit, the better the chances of selection. So you find situations where somebody might have gone and filed a visa, but is still receiving invitations to apply for state nomination by the different states. The reference material from where these occupations are sourced, i.e. ANZCO, is way out of date. And you've got different versions of ANZCO suitable for different types of visas. So the reference material is way out of date. And the lists of occupations are also way out of date. You've got a list of occupations suitable for the independent visa that was published in 2019 and updated maybe once thereafter. And the occupations that may have been in demand in 2019 are certainly not going to be in demand at this point in time. There's also issues associated with timing, because it tends to take about a year to 18 months for one of these visas to be processed. And if you take into account that once granted, you've got a period of up to 5 years to immigrate to Australia, i.e. it comes to a total of 6.5 years from when you might have first applied for the visa. There's no guarantee that your occupation is going to be still in demand by the time you actually settle in Australia. And lastly, costs. These are not particularly cheap visas. If you're looking at a scenario of, say, a South African carpenter who's got a spouse or partner with 2 dependent children, he's looking at the better part of about 15,000 Australian dollars in terms of government application costs and visa costs. And this doesn't take into account the costs of a migration agent or airfares or relocation to Australia. So it's not a particularly cheap visa. I still think that general skilled migration visas are very useful. And if you are curious about your eligibility, why don't you complete one of our free questionnaires on our website, and we'll get back to you regarding your eligibility for GSM visas. I hope you enjoy the read.